All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Return to the Ridge, a virtual adventure with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes while some more people log in and join. I want to let you all know that this is a Zoom webinar, so you can see me and hear me, hopefully, but I can't see or hear you. But if you have any questions along the way, there is a Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to click that at any time during the presentation. If you have a question or comment, type it in, and then I'm going to have time at the very end of this presentation to go through all the questions. My name is Michelle Garcia, and I'm the Educational Program Coordinator here at the Open Space Authority, and I'm going to be the one giving you the tour of what is now called Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, and telling you all about why this place is so special and how you can play a role in helping to protect it. All right, so let's dig in. I'm going to move some things around on my screen. Very good. All right, thank you all again for joining. And again, if you have any questions while we go through this presentation, feel free to click down at the very bottom at the Q&A button and type in any questions. We're probably going to wrap up around 12:30 or 12:45. So grab some lunch and join me as we take a sneak preview of springtime at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. Before we jump in, I would love to acknowledge that the Open Space Authority works within lands that were originally stewarded by the Awaswas, Chochenyo, Mutsun, and Tamian-speaking peoples. Today, we are honored to partner with the Ama Mutsun Tribal Band and the Ooykma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area in our shared work to protect and restore the environment and connect people to the land. Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge is the home of the ancestral peoples of the Ooykma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, and they are a modern day partner with us. They help and work really hard to steward land and areas like this. You can check out their website, ooykma.org, to learn a little bit more about them. So welcome to springtime at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. I think today is March 1st, which kind of officially begins the spring season for us here at the Open Space Authority. We consider March, April, and May to be kind of like our, where we begin to do our springtime, what's the word? Our springtime procedures and all of the things that we start to look out for and how we start to manage our different preserves. And I'm going to be talking specifically about what springtime looks like at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge and what rules and procedures we have in place. And of course, I'm going to be talking about how you can come out and visit Máyyan Ooyákma and what you might see there. So first things first, what is Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge? Some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not be. So Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge is a nature preserve managed by the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. That's us. We manage preserves. We manage 4 different preserves that are kind of throughout San Jose, Sierra Vista, Rancho Cañada del Oro, Coyote Valley, and of course, Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. Máyyan Ooyákma is the newest preserve. It opened this past August, so it's not even been open for a full year yet, which means this is the first spring it will be open to the public, which is really exciting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. So Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, it's a nature preserve. It's about 1,800 acres, in size, and it's in the South San Jose area. If you look at the map on the left side of the screen, it's kind of outlined in purple. It's almost like a weird long bird shape, beak on one end and the tail kind of flipping up at the other. And it's on the eastern side of Coyote Valley. So it's in kind of the foothills of the Diablo mountain range. It's got big rolling hills, not a lot of tree cover, but you can get all the way up to the top of those foothills of the Diablo mountain ranges at this preserve. And so our trails go all the way from like a few hundred feet in elevation to I think almost 1,500 feet in elevation. We have 5 miles of trails here. These trails are open to hiking, biking, and equestrian use. And part of what makes Máyyan Ooyákma so special is that it is truly a biodiversity hotspot. You can kind of see in this photo that the city of San Jose is kind of like up and to the left of the photo. You can get to the entrance of Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge probably in like 15 or 20 minutes of driving from downtown San Jose. It's right off of Highway 101. It's super easily accessible. It's very close to Morgan Hill and San Jose. But when you get out there, it really looks like a completely different world. So Máyyan Ooyákma is not just special because of the plants and animals that you can find here, but the name also makes it pretty special. Some of you may have been sitting in on this presentation and been like, what does Máyyan Ooyákma mean, or what language is that in? So Máyyan Ooyákma means Coyote Ridge. It's the direct translation of Coyote Ridge. So Máyyan means coyote, and Ooyákma means ridge. And I would recommend taking a moment to help practice saying that name together. You can kind of repeat after me. Obviously, I won't be able to hear you. And if you're, maybe eating in a public space, you can kind of whisper it to yourself. But I highly recommend practicing saying the name. So go ahead and repeat after me. Máyyan Ooyákma. Máyyan Ooyákma. Nicely done. You did great. So Máyyan Ooyákma means Coyote Ridge in the Chochenyo language. The Chochenyo language is the language stewarded by the Ooykma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. And again, whose members trace their ancestry to the indigenous peoples or Aboriginal inhabitants of this region. We partner with the Ooykma Ohlone for a few different projects and things, but this is one really cool way that we got to highlight them and the Chochenyo language. And so do take the chance to practice saying the name. Be bold, even if you say it wrong the first few times. That's totally fine. For many folks, it's not a language that you're super familiar with. You might be more familiar with English or another Latin language. And so it's cool to practice saying a new language, and especially one that has so much meaning and importance behind it. So yes, Máyyan Ooyákma means Coyote Ridge. So what else makes Máyyan Ooyákma so special? Not just the name, not just the historical importance of it, but let's talk about kind of the current ecological importance of it. And we're going to start from the ground up. So starting with the ground, we're going to talk about the serpentine soil. When you go to Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, you will pretty quickly notice that there's all these like green, shiny, smooth rocks just like hanging around about. And those green, shiny rocks are called serpentine or serpentinite. Serpentine is actually the California state rock. It was dubbed the California state rock, I think, back in the 1980s. I forget now. But it is still the California state rock. It's a really beautiful rock. It's a metamorphic rock, so it's formed deep underneath the crust of the earth in the mantle with an unimaginable amount of heat and pressure. And it's kind of cooked together with a little bit of ancient sea floor, a little bit of magma, a little bit of ocean salt water, and a lot of heavy metals. It has a lot of like magnesium in it. And over millions of years, that serpentine kind of makes its way through the crust of the earth and is pushed up, and now is on the surface of the earth, kind of mixing in with our soils. Today, only about 1% of California's landscape has serpentine soils. So although once upon a time, this rock may have been found many places, it's now, not quite rare, but it is hard to find, especially the amount that we have at Coyote Ridge. I mentioned last slide that Coyote Ridge, or a couple slides ago, that Coyote Ridge is about 1,800 acres. Almost 1,000 of those acres is serpentine soil. You'll see these rocks littered everywhere. And over time, those rocks have worn down really fine and mixed into the soil, creating this really unique blend of serpentine soil. And of course, that serpentine, as it kind of like grinds down and mixes in the soil, it makes a really unique and strange soil composition. There's a lot of heavy metals in serpentine, a lot of magnesium, and not a lot of like nitrogen or phosphorus, which is usually what plants need. So the soil that we have here at Coyote Ridge is actually really bad soil. It lacks a lot of nutrients that most plants need. But that lack of nutrients is actually a really good thing for native plants because that unique soil composition creates unique plants and flowers. So the native species, the native plants that have been living on Coyote Ridge for thousands of years have actually especially adapted to these toxic and poor serpentine soils, which makes them like really cool looking and really unique. A lot of these plants that you find at Coyote Ridge, you can't find anywhere else because like we said, only 1% of California's landscape has serpentine soils, and very few places has as much serpentine soil as here at Coyote Ridge. So there's not a lot of non-native plants here, but there are a lot of really unique California species that just go bananas in the springtime. We have amazing flowering plants at Coyote Ridge. If you look on our far left side of the screen, those yellow flowers are called goldfields. They're one of the most prevalent flowers at Coyote Ridge, and they're named goldfields because you will look out at the trail in front of you and it'll just be covered with a field of gold because there's these little golden daisies springing up everywhere. On the far right side of the screen, you'll see these little purple flowers. Those are called bird's eye gilia. They're beautiful little flowers, little tiny purple, white, and black flowers that spring up all over Coyote Ridge. And they're kind of an early bloomer, so they're going to be coming up pretty soon. And of course, mixed within there in that far right photo is a few goldfields and a number of California poppies. There are like probably 50 to 60 or maybe even 70 different species of wildflowers that bloom out at Coyote Ridge. And it's an amazing experience being out there in the springtime. And it's going to start kicking up in this March and April and May season, especially as we get a little bit more sunshine. I will say one really great flower that we get a lot of out at Coyote Ridge is the middle flower. It is called the California plantain. It's also known as the dwarf plantain or the dot seed plantain. And it's not as colorful or as charismatic as some of our other really colorful and beautiful wildflowers, but I would argue it really is one of the most important flower species that we have here at Coyote Ridge. So like I said, we have really unique soil, which creates unique plant life. And now that plant life also creates unique insects and animal life. Because our whole ecosystem is unique from starting from the soil, it creates really special ecosystem, especially when we're talking about the California plantain. Because the California plantain is actually the host plant of a threatened species that can only be found at Coyote Ridge. And I'm talking about the bay checkerspot butterfly. The bay checkerspot butterfly is kind of like a medium-sized butterfly. It's about 2 inches wingspan. You see a photo of it on the left-hand side of your screen, and it has a really iconic and beautiful wing pattern. It's kind of this checkerboard of oranges and yellows and whites and blacks across its wings, and with like orange kind of capped shoulders and antenna coming out. It is a federally threatened species, although the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service did recommend that it be increased to an endangered species back in 2022. And there's yet to be any update yet, but we think there might be because, as we'll kind of talk about, this species is under a big risk and has been declining in recent years. As I mentioned before, depends on the California plantain. The California plantain is also pictured here in this photo, and it really is very unassuming. It's maybe about the size of my pinky, like a few inches tall. It looks like you sprayed a pipe cleaner, not a pipe cleaner, It looks like you sprayed a Q-tip green and then stuck it in the in the soil. It's got kind of like white, creamy, like translucent flower petals. It's very small, but the bay checkerspot butterfly heavily depends on this plant. This plant, which loves growing in serpentine soils, it, the butterfly will lay its eggs at the base of the dwarf plantain, and then as the larvae hatch, it will start eating the plantain and its leaves. So it really depends on it. This is one of the only plants that the larvae will really Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge is truly the last thriving and largest habitat for this butterfly. Back in the day, the bay checkerspot butterfly would have been found across California, across the United States, but as its habitat has decreased due to urban sprawl and climate change and human development, we've lost a lot of the California plantain, we've lost a lot of serpentine soils, which means we've lost a lot of habitat for the bay checkerspot butterfly. There have been other locations where the bay checkerspot butterfly has been like found, and then like they try to help the population or they try to introduce more butterflies, but there hasn't been a ton of success with that. Whereas at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, my cat wants to say hi. Hi, sorry, baby. Oh, there you go. Whereas at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, um, yeah, it's just truly the last thriving habitat. When we get to go visit in the springtime and the adult butterflies start flying around, uh, it's a truly magical experience to see how many butterflies we have at just one location. And it's really important for it to stay that way. Springtime is butterfly season at Máyyan Ooyákma. They're going to start kind of waking up this March and start flying around. Adult bay checkerspot butterflies have only about 10 days to live. And in those 10 days, they have to, pollinate, eat nectar, they mate, and they lay their eggs. So they're really on a time crunch, um, which is important to know when you're out there, because when you go out there to visit this March or April, you will see bay checkerspot butterflies. And any interaction you have with those butterflies will really make or break their ability to contribute to the next generation. And so if we, chase butterflies or if we step on butterflies, that can really hurt, that can directly impact the next generation. And so at the Open Space Authority, we have this really interesting prerogative where, that we have this beautiful preserve that we want to show to people and to the public and that we've worked so hard on. But we also have the responsibility of stewarding this land and the species that depend on it. And so this spring, there's going to be some really specific ways that we want you to interact with this land and to learn about it. And of course, the bay checkerspot butterfly is not the only unique and wonderful insect or species that's out there. There are actually a number of threatened or endangered species out at Coyote Ridge. There's also a number of just rare species that people don't get to see often that depend on this habitat. Starting from the top left, going to the right, we've got the American badger, the tule elk, the burrowing owl. Now to the left on the bottom side, we've got the golden eagle, the Mount Hamilton thistle, mountain lions. There's also fritillary, dudleya, longhorned moths. All tiger salamanders, red-legged frogs. There's a lot of species that aren't found many other places that really depend on this land. It's a really beautiful preserve. So, how do we go about protecting this land so that the endangered species that depend on it can continue to do so for generations, and the people who love to visit this place can continue to bring their friends and family back for many years to come? So there's a number of ways that we've gone about working to protect Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. So, and there's actually many ways that you can help us protect Máyyan Ooyákma as well. One way that we've put in place to help protect Máyyan Ooyákma and that you can help us protect Máyyan Ooyákma is by getting a butterfly pass. What is a butterfly pass? How do we get it? So a butterfly pass is a pretty simple online agreement that you can make just by going to our website and clicking on Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. It'll prompt you to get a butterfly pass. It is completely for free and takes about 60 seconds, where you read through a webpage where you learn a little bit about our preserve and you agree to follow the rules in place that we have at the preserve. Rules like that you understand that this is a sensitive habitat and is home to endangered species, that you understand that you need to stay on designated trails, stay off rocks, not picking any plants or harassing wildlife, including butterflies, that you'll clean shoes, bike tires, and horse hooves prior to going on the trails, and that you'll check our website for trail conditions and closures before visiting. So, like I said, Máyyan Ooyákma is special from the ground up. We've got unique soil, which creates unique plant life, creating unique ecosystems of insects and animals that live here. And all of that is a really sensitive habitat. If we're walking off trails or if we're stepping on caterpillars or flowers, all of that can, as an individual, you might not think it has a big impact. But if we multiply that by the hundreds of visitors that we'll get this spring, then you can really start to have serious negative effects on the preserve. But if we get butterfly passes and agree to follow these rules, we can ensure that this preserve stays a special home to these unique species and a special home for us to visit for many, many years to come. A common question we get is, why do I need to clean my shoes or bike tires before hiking out on the trail? That's kind of a unique thing that not many other preserves do. But you may not realize it, but if you go hiking at other parks or other preserves, your shoes can often pick up seeds or mud or soil from other locations, and even pick up other plant pathogens or even animal pathogens. And so taking the time to clean or scrape off any extra dirt from your shoe or spray it with an alcohol solution can help prevent the spread of invasive species and also help prevent the spread of any plant diseases that you might have picked up. We have boot cleaning stations at the trailheads of all of our trails. And of course, you should always check in on our website for our trail conditions and closures before visiting. This is a nature preserve and it runs on nature's time. We've gotten a lot of rain this past winter and early spring. And so when our trails are too saturated or conditions aren't good, we do close our most sensitive areas, which includes a lot of our trails. And so it's always good to just check in on our website, make sure the trails you want to hike are open and available to you. And if not, there will be many more days to come this spring and many more opportunities to hike and explore. Another way you can help protect Coyote Ridge this spring is by joining us for a guided hike. So when you're hiking out in the preserve, you can hike on your own throughout our trails. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the trails are open for all users. But on Saturdays and Sundays, when we know that the visitor impact will probably be high, all guests can join us for guided hikes throughout the trail system. You can't hike on your own, but you can join us for a guided hike with one of our talented volunteers or docents. This allows us to make sure that all of our folks and all of our visitors are joining us on trail, obeying all of our rules, and that they get a really enjoyable educational experience while they're out there at Coyote Ridge. There are multiple lengths of guided hikes, so you're welcome to pick the one that works best for you. And we have a team of really, really amazing and talented docents and volunteers who are excited to greet you and join you out on the trail. Another way you can help us this spring is you can also join us as a volunteer. So, of course, taking the time to immerse yourself in a new environment and take the time to learn about it on a guided hike is already a big step in helping to educate yourself and to help protect a new ecosystem. But if you want to take it an even a step further, you could volunteer your time. We have volunteers that help us do trail building, do restoration projects, that help us welcome visitors at Máyyan Ooyákma, that do habitat and trail monitoring and data gathering, and of course, talented volunteers that help us with guided hikes. And we're always looking for more help and more support. So if you're interested in playing an even greater role out at Máyyan Ooyákma, you can check out our website and find out how you can join us as a volunteer. Oh, and I should mention that if you want to sign up for a guided hike, all you have to do is go to our website and click on the events tab, and it will show you all of our guided hike options. They're happening all spring long on Saturdays and Sundays, so there should be plenty of room for everybody. So today we talked about how Máyyan Ooyákma is special in its name, in its soil, in its plant and animal life. But I'd also love to point out that Máyyan Ooyákma is also really special because of its people. The Open Space Authority has worked really hard for almost a decade to, protect and restore Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge, and it's all thanks to the people who have made the work possible. Our volunteers and docents have been working and learning about this preserve for many, many years and are really dedicated and talented educators and are really passionate about this land. In addition, the staff have literally poured blood, sweat, and tears into building trail, into creating policy and legislation, into planning and designing. And you can see that the second that you get to that parking lot and set up out on the trail, that not only is this a special preserve, but it's been created and maintained and loved by really special people. And so when you get out there this spring, when you hike out at Máyyan Ooyákma this spring, you will get the opportunity to see a field staffer or a volunteer. And I would love it if you took the chance to thank them for the work they've done. They've poured years into creating this place and making it open and available to all of us. And so when you see those wildflowers, when you see those babe checkerspot butterflies, we have a big team of scientists and volunteers and staff who are behind that, making it possible. And I'm excited that you yourself are also now going to be a part of that people story. When you go out there and visit Máyyan Ooyákma, that's your chance to become a part of the story of this beautiful preserve as a visitor, as someone who's maybe learning for the first time, or maybe seeing these flowers for the 10th time. It doesn't matter. You are now a part of this story. And hopefully this is a story that will continue on for generations to come. Yeah. Now I'll go through any questions you guys have. I know I rolled through a lot of information, but feel free to put any questions you have in the Q&A box down below, and I'll take the time to go through them. All right, one question we have is, do Tule elk eat or graze on the California plantain? That's a really good question. I'd say probably no. A lot of the grazing animals like cattle, deer, or elk really like grazing on grasses, specifically the fresh green, really chewy grasses. And the California plantain is not a very it's a bit more tough and sticky, and it's very low to the ground. It doesn't even really stand out that much. If you're hiking there, you have to really try to key in and engage to try to find it. And so it just doesn't, it's not as appetizing to those grazing animals. I would assume that if they had nothing else, like no other option, they would probably eat the California plantain. But for the most part, as long as there are other grasses there, which there are, they'll choose that. And they usually choose that over any native flowering plant. It's just not as appetizing to them. All right, another question. Where can you find badgers and burrowing owls out at Coyote Ridge? That's a very good question. So it's kind of hard to say. All of those animals are animals that either take small migrations. So sometimes they'll come back to the same burrow every year, and other times they're kind of plopping around. They genuinely like living around low grasslands and large rocky areas, which is, of course, very plentiful at Máyyan Ooyákma Coyote Ridge. We don't really advertise the location of the homes of those specific animals, specifically because we want to give them serenity and peace. But I can say that both of those animals have been active during the daytime. So if we're lucky, if we continue to protect this preserve, we will get more and more of those animals and more opportunities to maybe see them from the trails. But I will say, if you want to see um, there are a lot of other great places to see burrowing owls and badgers. If you ever go to Sierra Vista Open Space Preserve, another preserve we manage, that is another spot that's kind of known for those two animals' locations. And people have seen them even from the parking lot, which is really cool. So you can double your chance of seeing some by if you just visit a few more other preserves. And Sierra Vista is also gorgeous. Ah, okay. This is a really good question. Someone asked to tell us about the parking that you have there. So our parking lot has about 42 parking spots in it or so. If you sign up for a guided hike to join on the weekend, your parking spot will be reserved, so you don't really have to worry about it. If you're coming on a weekday or not as a part of a reservation on a weekend, just know that parking is limited, and this spring we will be very busy, we think. We've never had the park open in this way during the springtime, so we're assuming that we'll have a lot of people, but we don't really know yet because we've never experienced it. But I would highly recommend getting there early. The preserve opens at 10 o'clock every day. And even if don't have the chance to like hike on the trails, because you have to be a part of a docent-led hike on the weekends to hike on the trails. So even if you get there and you don't have a lot of time or aren't able to hike on the trails, there's a little paved loop near the parking lot that you can still enjoy. There's picnic areas. There's still a lot to be seen, even in that immediate vicinity. So get there early, and come as often as you can. Spring changes pretty quick, and we've got early bloomers, true bloomers, and late bloomers. So come multiple times and just to see how the preserve starts to change over the weeks. All right. I think that's all of our questions. Nice. We ended at 12:30. All right. If there's no more questions, I want to thank you all so much for joining me for this presentation. I really hope I get to see you out on the preserve soon. Thank you, everyone. Share. Oh, wait, there's one more question. Just kidding. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Hope to see you all on the trail soon. Bye-bye.